A very good morning, one and all. Welcome back to strategic management class. Last class we discussed regarding organizational resources. The topic we're dealing is evaluating organizational resources and company capabilities. So organizational resources we have seen in the previous class. So in today's class, we shall discuss regarding capabilities of a company. So that's the topic for the day. So we know that resources are very important for an organization. Resources can be tangible resources or intangible resources, right? Some of the commonly visible resources for an organization are physical resources like plant building. Okay, and similarly we have human resource, financial resources are there, machinery is a resource, and we also have intangible resources like brand loyalty, brand equity, trademark. Okay, so some of these particular things. So in today's class, having seen regarding the uh, resources of an organization, in today's class, we shall discuss regarding the capabilities of the company. So what do we mean by a capability and how important is this particular capabilities of a company, right? So when we look at this particular word called capability, right, it involves the word called ability. So ability in the sense, the ability of a company to use resources efficiently and effectively forms the capability of the company. Almost all the organizations which are doing business, every organization will have its own share of resources. Okay, there's nothing like some organizations have resources and some organizations do not have resources. An organization without resources does not exist, and if an organization is existing, it does mean to say it has certain resources with it. Okay, so it depends upon the company how effectively and how efficiently it is using this particular resources for the benefit of the organization or for the growth of the organization. Okay, so some companies have this particular capability. Some companies are they use their resources very effectively, and some companies use their resources very efficiently. Those particular companies which put the resources to effective and efficient use, now they develop a capability, and it is this particular capability which gives the organization an edge over the competitors. So in the war to win, in the war to survive, how does an organization survive, or how does an organization, overcome the competition? So capabilities to an extent, they help an organization to overcome the competition. They help an organization to stand in face of this particular cutthroat competition. So capabilities are like, these are like, the abilities of an organization, the ability of an organization to use the resources efficiently and effectively. So that's what our capabilities mean. And some of the capabilities can also be intangible, right? So the intangible capabilities of an organization can be like organizational culture, or the way we take certain decisions, or the protocol can be a capability. So this communication can be a capability. Things like protocol, things like communication, things like organizational culture. Now, these particular things, they either make a company or they break a company, right? Communication can be a barrier, or communication can be a catalyst. Communication is a catalyst when we are able to produce good results using an effective communication. It can be a barrier when the results go wrong, or when we are not able to produce results because of the existing communication channels. So it can, so these particular things, the way we are using, and the way an organization is using its resources, or the ability of a company or the ability of an organization to use its resources, they can either make the company or they can either break the company. If the organization does not have the ability to use them effectively, things go wrong. All right. And in a highly competitive and intensely competitive organization or intensely competitive industry, organization cannot have effort to get things wrong. All right, because one single mistake can be very, very costly. One single mistake may force an organization to exit from that particular industry. So in such particular scenarios, capabilities of a company, they become very, very important. Now let's move to the next topic, that is core competence. Part of our capability is like core competence. Now, what is a core competence? Core competence is a concept in management which was given by C.K. Prahalad and Gary Hamel. Now, C.K. Prahalad is no more with us. Don't know about Gary. C.K. Prahalad has contributed, to the Indian industry, especially to the advertising industry and to this particular strategic management in a very big way. Okay. So C.K. Prahalad and Gary Gamel, they gave this particular core competency. Now, what do we mean by that? Core competencies are the defining characteristics that make a business an individual stand out from the competition. Identifying and exploiting core competencies is seen as important for new businesses which are trying to make a mark or which are trying to establish themselves by overcoming the competition. Okay, so that's what is our core competence. It's in a single word. If we have to define this particular core competence, we can define core competence as the inherent strength. Now that's the word that can be used for core competence. Inherent strength. Okay, now that particular strength which is inborn, which is within the organization, which other people cannot imitate and copy. Okay, that inherent strength of an organization can be a core competence. Now let us look at this particular diagram before we proceed further. So every organization will have resources. Now organizations, by using this particular resources for using these resources effectively and efficiently, they develop a capability. Now this particular capability we retain for a period of time. When you are able to retain the capability for a period of time, it leads to two things. When we are able to lead it for a longer period of time, slowly the capability transforms into core competence. And if we are not able to retain this particular capability, we are not able to exploit it or retain it for longer intervals or longer duration of time, it remains as a capability. And just capability alone is not going to help. So in the long run, what an organization needs to develop is core competence, right? A core competence might be like low cost product with world class features. When we are able to give a world class feature product with a low cost, that becomes a core competence. Not everybody will be able to cut the cost and give a world class product and affordable price. Now that may not be possible. Our core competence can be a differentiated product. Now that particular product which is completely unique from the other products, which stands unique, right? It's known for its uniqueness. Now maintaining that uniqueness for a longer interval is a challenge, because any competitor may enter into industry. Apart from the existing players, new players may come with another unique product. Right now, staying afloat with that particular uniqueness is the core competence. Say, for example, to take the case of Sony, Sony's core competence is innovation. Right. So many televisions have come. Many televisions have come. Even every cell phone company has launched its own TV brand. But what sets Sony apart from this particular TV brands, from the remaining TV brands, what is so unique about this particular Sony? Sony has set a benchmark. When we talk about quality, when we talk about this particular picture quality, or when we talk about the quality of the television, the benchmark is Sony. Now remaining products, however good they may be, whatever might be their brand value or whatever might be their brand pull, they do not match to the expectations of customers, because in the mind of the customer, in the consumer's mind, Sony stands for innovation, and innovation is Sony in television market. So over a period of time, continuously working on this particular strength of theirs, they happen to develop it as a core competence. Having developed it as a core competence, it becomes so strong as positioning, it became so strong in the mind of the consumers. Now it is it's not possible for the competitors to erase from the mind of the consumers saying that, there's a better product than Sony. We have got so and so company, right? So a set of customers are not willing to listen to that. Okay. Okay, so similarly, in certain industrial products, in certain categories, we say this particular Bosch, Bosch products are known for quality. We take washing machine IFP, right? So in each and every product category, those particular organizations with their resources who happen to work on capabilities, they happen to develop over a period of time called core competence. And it is this particular core competency which makes them completely different from the competitors, and it helps them to retain their position in the market for a longer interval. Now let us look at the characteristics of core competence. There are three fundamental characteristics of core competence. The first one, core competence creates a perceived value for consumers, right? So perceived value in the sense here, a customer who is paying extra money because branded products, and the two those particular brands which are unique in nature, you'll have to pay premium. Okay, you're buying a 60 inches television or you're buying an 80 inches television, normal brands will come for 1 lakh rupees or 1.2, 1.5 lakh rupees. Now Sony will cost you 2 lakh rupees or 2.5. Right, 4K technology, many brands have come saying that we are also having 4K technology. Now using normal televisions and all 4K technology, they may be priced at 60 inches television or beyond, they may be priced at 1 lakh or 1.2 lakh. But the same 4K technology in case of this particular Sony comes at 2.25 lakhs or 2.2 lakhs. Now what is that differentiates? Right, remaining organizations which are saying that they're having this particular 4K technology, we do not know how far that is genuine. But when we take Sony for into consideration, we are 100% confident that when they mean 4K, they mean it. Now they are not going to just bluff about it. You see, even in case of this particular cell phones, also many in the early days, companies like Cellcon and other companies, they used to say we have 8 MP camera or we have 12 MP camera, right? But even this 12 MP camera or 8 MP camera which they are giving, the quality, look at the quality of the pictures. The pictures used to be blurred, and then when you magnify them, the blurring becomes even more visible. Right, the blur in this particular image becomes even more visible. Now what sets Apple different from them? In case of Apple, even if you magnify, if they're saying 5 MP, it means 5 MP, nothing less than that. They don't say we are giving you 100 MP camera or 60 MP camera. They don't come with this particular bluff. Okay, they don't come and say this particular bluff and all. So if they say like 15 MP camera or 20 MP, when they mean 20 MP or when they mean 8 MP camera, it means 8 MP, right? And when you magnify, right, 8 MP normal cell phone, which is saying that they are having 8 MP, for example, in case of Cellcom 8 MP, and then Apple 8 MP, you take this particular image and make an compare them. When you magnify them, in case of Apple cameras, you don't get this particular, you will not be able to see this particular blurredness. You don't find the blur. But whereas in the other one, the blur is clearly visible. So what is the perception of consumers' perception? If we want the best cell phone in the cell phone industry, there are many companies. But if you want the best belongs to Apple. Right, so over a period of time, having consistently worked on that particular innovation, worked on that particular technology, Apple had made that as its core competence. So now consumers have perceived a value. Consumers have kept the value perception here is nothing but the best in the industry. So it's like setting a benchmark. The second thing the core competence does for an organization, it has a wider market applicability, right? So this particular, it appeals to all set of consumers. right? Wider market applicability in the sense like some consumers may buy, some consumers may not buy. It depends upon the affordability. Even if the consumer does not buy, he still knows that's the best product, right? A person, I mean, today you and me may not have there might be millions of Indians who may not have the ability to own an Apple iPhone, right? There might be millions of people who are using Android phones. Millions of people are using Android phones who may not have afford an Apple iPhone. But still, all these particular people, all these millions of consumers who are using Android phones, they know full well that Apple stands for the best, right? So here, I mean, this information regarding your core competence, this information that you are best in the industry, that you are best in so and so features, that you are best in so and so aspect of the product. Now, that particular information is not limited only to your target customers. This information is not limited only to the target customers. This information reaches the entire set of the customers. People who are not even your customers also, they also have this information regarding you. Now that's what we mean by wider market applicability here. So we are not confining our organizational greatness, or we are not confining our organization to just our customers only, to just our target customers only. Beyond target customers also, this information spreads, this information reaches them. Okay, and finally, core competence makes it difficult for organizations. As which organizations? Rival organizations. That's nothing but the competitors. Makes difficult for the competitors to imitate. It's not that particularly easy to imitate. All right, because the best is always the best. Okay, so I mean, after Apple in Android also, many new companies have come. All right, we have OnePlus being introduced and the other host of other companies which have been introduced, saying that they are very close to Apple and so on so. But still, Apple still retains its market command, right? Apple still retains its market command. It has still got that particular craze. It is still the benchmark in the industry. It is still in the benchmark in this particular industry. So all those organizations which have got their core competences, now these particular organizations are very hard to imitate. Okay, Asian Paints was launched in 1950s. In previous class, I told you regarding Asian Paints. When it was launched, they had very big trouble in launching the product, since the remaining manufacturers in the paint industry then, now they formed a cartel, they formed a sort of an association, and they pressurized the retailers, I mean the distribution network, distributors, wholesalers and retailers not to accept Asian Paints products. So Asian Paints had to start from scratch. They had to form their own distribution network, their own stock keeping units, their own wholesalers, and then retailers. Asian Paints world, right? Now, having done that to hold this particular market, what did they do? The core competence here was in their marketing, right? So core competence need not be just only one strength. It can be a couple of strengths. All right. In case of Apple and Sony also, it's not just the product that's the core competence. Even the research and development is the core competence. Had the R&D team not been that strong, had the R&D team not been that creative and innovative, Apple should not have been still continued as the market leader, right? Just like Nokia, people should have comfortably forgotten this particular Apple also, right? Nokia had a core competence for a very long time, till almost like 2010. They launched this particular Android phones. The greatest, I mean, the biggest mistake that Nokia has done is, Nokia thought, Nokia had an option whether smartphones are being launched in this particular smartphones category. They had an option whether to choose Windows or whether to choose Android. They made a wrong step. They took a wrong decision. The wrong decision was to ally with in Windows. Had they chosen this particular Android, we do not know what could have been the fate and how things should have been shaped up, right? Having chosen this particular Windows, Now that was like a death knell, right? They happened to kill their own brand. So over a period of time, Nokia was comfortably, uh, lost. Today, most of the people who are buying a cell phone, when they are want to buy a cell phone, in the top of the mind recall, the first five brands or the first four or brands or six brands, Nokia comes nowhere in that particular consideration. Nowhere. Absolutely lost. Right? You see, having core competence alone is not enough. Along with this particular core competence, we also need to do environmental scanning. In the beginning of the class, we discussed environmental scanning. Now, what the mistake that Nokia has done is it did not do its particular scanning well and made a poor choice, right? So these are the three characteristics. One is core competence is very difficult to imitate, even if the rivals are going to imitate and come with a similar product, it is still considered as a cheap. It is still considered as a duplicate. It is still considered as replicate. The best is always the best, no matter what. How much ever competitors may try to, come out in similar Apple features, similar Apple thing, but Apple is Apple. That's it. You may have very close phones to Apple, but they can never be Apple. There's only one Apple, and Apple is that. The best is always the best. So it's very difficult to imitate. Second, it has got a wider market applicability. So you are not, the information regarding you, regarding your greatness, the information regarding your achievements is not just confined to your target customers. You go beyond your target customers. The entire set of the market you go, and that information reaches you. And for the customers, how do the customers perceive? Now, customers perceive you as a unique product, someone who is different from the whole bunch of the products. Reminding all particular brands are like just like cattle, and you stand away from the cattle. You stand like a lion. You're completely different from the remaining brands. Oh, that particular. So these are the three fundamental characteristics of our core competence. Now let us look at the conditions. Now, how can an organization develop something called as a core competence? What are the requirements for core competence? So the requirements are, the first one is competitor differentiation, right? So the first thing, in order to develop core competence, identify that particular strength of the organization. Organization should identify that particular strength which is going to make it completely different from the competitors, right? So you'll have to be an, your own brand. Okay, so identify that uniqueness, right? Now the differentiation might be in the production, the differentiation might be in the human resource, the differentiation might be in the financial resources, the differentiation may come from the products, the differentiation may come from the promotion and advertising. You never know which is organization strength, that we have to identify. All right, the differentiation may come from R&D. So identify those particular strengths. All right, having identified those particular strengths, see how your strengths are completely different from the other competitors. Okay, so that's one particular condition. Next, customer value, right? Whatever we do, end of the day, customer should always pursue value in his investment. Customer should always perceive value in his investment, right? Okay, because when we define something called as price, so in this particular something called as price, two components we have. We have the cost factor, we have the value factor. Okay, so customer should always pursue, should along with the value, cost also happens. Say for example, for buying in, you wanted to buy a particular product. Let us assume you wanted to buy this particular, micro oven, and you have identified one particular brand on this particular micro oven. Okay, you thought, okay, let me go with this particular brand called Samsung or something like that. So having identified, you make certain investments. What are your investments? Your first investment is time. I mean, time is always very scarce in nature. You've got many other works to do. Keeping all those particular works, the works aside, for almost 1 week, or almost for sometimes in case of products like a four-wheeler or two-wheeler, if you take the case of the four-wheeler, in case of four-wheeler, people spend 1 month or 2 months or 3 months time, right? Only for sourcing the information. Okay. So you are spending your time to source the information, you're putting your efforts there to source the information, and then you'll have to travel to the point where you're going to purchase. And when you're traveling to this particular point, say for example in places like Mumbai, right now you're living in somewhere in Navi Mumbai, and then this particular showroom from where you wanted to buy this particular product is located in Bandra. Navi Mumbai to Bandra is miles apart. It's like going from Dilshuk Nagar to Miapur, or Dilshuk Nagar to KPHB colony in case of Hyderabad. One corner to the other corner, completely unrelated, completely unrelated. Right. So you just imagine on roads, it may take you like 2 hours on road, or sometimes if the traffic is very congested, it may take 3 hours also. And even if you are going to travel by metro train, you can't go by a single metro train. Navi Mumbai to Dadar and Dadar to Bandra, you'll have to take two metro trains, right? And that also takes you like 1 hour or 1 hour, 15 minutes. Okay. So you're investing your time, you're investing your money, money comes the last. But what about the other cost, the perceived cost, the efforts that you have put in, the 2 months efforts that you have put in, right? And then your inconvenience of reaching that particular thing. And finally, you have brought this particular product. Having brought this particular product, say if that particular performance of the product is better, right? Having brought this particular, everybody was saying, no, Apple is a very good phone, or everybody is saying this particular products and all are good. Having done that, say if that performance is not matching the expectation, what happens? Customer value comes down. When customers perceived value comes down, it reaches to dissatisfaction, right? Otherwise, if it is matching, it is like satisfaction. And if the expectations